En Librísimo seguimos repasando las novedades editoriales de ficción especulativa de este 2026. Ya sabéis que si queréis apoyarnos podéis suscribiros al canal, dejarnos vuestros comentarios o regalarnos un me gusta. Y podéis vernos en YouTube y escucharnos en formato podcast en iVoox. En esta ocasión nos acompaña Kirsten Wolf, que viene para presentar su libro 24 horas en la vida de un vikingo, traducido por Amaya, Bozal, Chamorro y publicado por Espasa. Kirsten es profesora y ocupa la cátedra Torger Thompson en la Universidad de Wisconsin-Madison en Estados Unidos. Natural de Dinamarca, obtuvo su máster y su doctorado en lenguas escandinavas en el University College de London. Es autora de varios libros, entre ellos VIKING, an Encyclopedia of Conflict, Invasions and Raids y VIKING AGE. Y ahora sí, os dejamos con la entrevista. Kirsten Wolf. Hi, Kirsten. How are you?
Hello, hello.
I'm so excited to have you in Librisimo because this is the first time we have a book such as yours. I'm gonna, even though I already spoke about it a little bit in the intro, I wanted to tell everybody it's 24 hours in the Viking world. In Spanish will be 24 horas en la vida de un vikingo. And you can find it in Spanish in Espasa, the publisher, and the translation is by Amaya, Bozal, Chamorro. I always like to credit the translator because your book, it's not a novel, but is somehow a novelization of something, and it's also structured in a certain way. So I think by asking you this first question, which I always ask everybody who comes to Librisimo, I think we're going to learn a lot about the book. I always ask about the first thing the reader sees when gets your book, which is not just the cover, but the title. And the title says a lot about any book. So I would like to know, how did you come up with this title and why is 24 hours in the Viking world?
Okay, so some years ago, Omera Books in London, the press, asked me if I would be able to write a book on 24 hours in the Viking world. And it was part of a series, 24 hours in, 24 hours here and there and everywhere. From, I don't know, China to places in Europe. And I was a little hesitant at first, but I was given very clear guidelines. 24 hours in one day. So 24 chapters. So I had to go hour by hour by hour, starting I think like at midnight.
Midnight, yes.
Midnight to 1 o'clock, and then from there on, I was asked to come up with a sort of table of contents, like a brief description of what I would do in each chapter, meaning in each of these 24 hours. And it took me a while. I mean, for some hours in the daytime, it was very easy. But what does someone do like at 2 o'clock at night that you could write a chapter about? So I picked childbirth. You can plan when a child is going to be born, which time of the day. I also talked or wrote about, for example, a murder that took place during the night. So eventually I came up with 24 chapters.
And every chapter has a different main character or main characters. And
Yes.
also it talks about a specific part of the life, everyday life in the Viking. But those in particular are Vikings from Iceland, right?
I kind of bounce
Okay.
between Iceland. I relied a lot on Old Norse Icelandic literature, the sagas, for inspiration. Some of them are retellings of episodes in these medieval sagas, but now and then I shoot tangents out to Norway, to the Orkney Islands, even to North America, to so-called
Yes.
Vinland.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That was
But you're absolutely right. Most
most.
of the chapters or hours
Yeah.
yeah take place in Iceland for the simple reason that Iceland has the richest medieval literature than of the Scandinavian countries.
I said it already in the intro, but I just wanted to remind everybody who's watching or listening that you are actually a professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison in the United States. And what is it exactly that you teach, just to kind of like introduce everybody?
Well, I actually teach primarily Old Norse Icelandic language and literature. And I also teach Scandinavian linguistics. Those are my sort of two areas. A while ago, I taught a course on the Vikings, but that has since been taken over by a colleague. I mean, I still write quite a bit about the Vikings. I don't consider myself an expert. I mean, it all goes back to, I think, like 20 years ago when I was asked by a press if I'd be willing to write a book called Daily Life of the Vikings.
Yes,
I
in
can show you a
2004,
picture.
right?
It looks
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This
Yeah,
is the ones
yeah.
I was gonna ask you about too.
Okay. Yeah. So I kind of thought, But I thought, okay, I have to develop this course on the Vikings. So I might as well kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
And so I wrote the book, and at the same time, I developed that course on the Vikings, which I taught for a few years.
And so I was gonna say, I saw that you wrote the Vikings Facts and Fictions, Daily Life of the Vikings, Viking Age, Everyday Life During the Extraordinary Era of the Norsemen. So I mean, those are more. I don't know whether they are more novelizations or they're essays or.
No, those are sort of, I would say, semi-scholarly books.
Okay.
Scholarly, but written with a general audience in mind.
In mind.
And I think this one Daily Life of the Vikings became quite popular.
Yeah.
And since then, I have been asked to write other books on the Vikings. Two I have co-authored with a former student of mine, Tristan Mueller-Vollmer. And I think that was what eventually led to me being asked to write 24 hours in the Viking world.
And do you remember where were you when they asked you to do this? You were at university. I mean, in Madison, or you were.
No,
Yeah.
no, I was here. I was here. I think I had pretty much just arrived or been here at the University of Wisconsin for, a couple of years. I've been
And
I've been I've been here since 2001, so it's been a long time.
okay. So I think that regarding Viking world, uh, many people, I think they know, including myself, a lot because of obviously audiovisual, like TV, movies, even some things that we read. But I think that someone like you, having you here, I wanted to ask you, what do you think is the most common misconception people have about Vikings?
Oh, I think there are very many misconceptions.
So few of them, like, I don't
Well,
know,
okay. Yeah, okay. One is, I think the word Viking is used about the population in Scandinavia in general. That is not true. I mean, there's no such thing as a Viking child or a Viking woman. I mean, being a Viking was a profession which a man occupied for a while. So when he was raiding and pillaging, he was a Viking. When he returned home, he was not a Viking. He could be a farmer, a fisherman, a craftsman, whatever. Another misconception is, of course, the horned helmet.
You laugh when you
Yeah. Oh,
when you
yeah. Oh,
mention
yeah. But
this.
that has become so ingrained. You know, you go to Scandinavia and you see these little figurines in souvenir stores. And yes, indeed, those Vikings all have horned helmets.
But so people have had this misconception because
I just think the I think this image of the savage Viking has become so fascinating. And so I just think that popular culture has exploited it for the entertainment value.
what I gather through, I mean, all the stories are very compelling. The last one, which is the newborn that is being, I don't want to spoil, but there is a situation where the mother dies, and there's only one woman, and the mother dies in childbirth, and the baby's there, and there's a bunch of men, including the father, and they don't know how to feed the baby. How can they, and they try to find a solution. I think they find a solution. So there are amazing things that you learn from everyday life, from how they bake, what kind of bread they had, the many kinds of bread they had, and how they also they cooked it to sell it for profit. How they did a nice meal for people who were coming to celebrate with them. How women divorce. How the slaves were taken from raids oftentimes and brought to be helpers many times in farms. One of the things I found interesting is that most of the people that you talk about, I mean, there are bakers and chieftains, and they are also boat makers, ship makers, but most of the people live in farms. So we're talking about a very agricultural oriented society. And I was thinking about Iceland and how barren Iceland looks like, and how difficult would have been life there, even though I know that it's not just the only geographical place that Norse people lived, or the people that we call Vikings lived. But I thought that they must have had a very hard time at just trying to grow crows or taking care of the cattle, and it must be really a difficult time, and they would have come out as very wise people. And you show in the book how they make laws and decide very difficult things, and how they pass judgment. And I thought that they gave a very different approach of what we think are Vikings, which is always people riding and being very barbarian. But you spoke about also art. Like, one of my favorite chapters is the one that you dedicate to this runes artist, and how beautifully he carves something, and everybody's wowed by it, and how intricate and complicated and elaborated it is, and how so it's more just than rates, but it's wisdom, a lot of wisdom, and a lot of art too. And also you talk about this kind of bard. I don't know the word, I probably will not say it right, but this person that, kind of like said poems, or
the scald, the poet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you talk about many aspects that are normally we don't see in the popular depictions of, which is always they're fighting, and they're fighting with others, and they're fighting among themselves, and they're impulsive. But you portray a different picture. And I would like to know, how did you decide all these different chapters? You had to do 24. How did you decide which aspects of everyday life were you going to pick for every chapter?
Well, I tried to give a very broad picture. I tried to more or less distribute it evenly between men and women.
Yes.
And I tried to cover a number of professions like arts and crafts. What else? Arts and
Baker,
crafts. Yep.
trader,
Medicine,
like there's a
law,
trader.
legal stuff.
Yes.
So yeah, I just tried to cast as broad a net as I possibly could. Of course, I also included trading and rating, but only I think I only devoted 2 chapters out of 24 to that because I wanted it to be representative. If I had written 18 chapters on rating, I think I would have distorted the picture of Vikings back then.
And I also wanted to point it out that many of the chapters are devoted to women and their function. And one of the things is you explain, because even though it's kind of like you are telling a story in each chapter, there are certain moments where there's these extracts where you talk about a particular aspect, like, well, this is the costume that they used to do, this is the tradition, this is the law, this is what blah blah blah. And also you tell what would happen in the future, like a small so for example, if somebody escape death, but then you say maybe I don't remember exactly, but sometimes you would say, but then even though he escaped this time, then in the future he doesn't know it, but he will be dead by blah blah blah, or not, right? So you kind of like give snippets of the future related to this particular characters. And I wanted to know, those characters are based on real characters, or you took some freedom and invented some?
I took a lot of information from the Old Norse Icelandic sagas. So some of these names are absolutely real.
Okay.
But the sagas of Icelanders, they're rather terse. They don't give very much information. So of course I expanded a lot, used my fantasy, and in the cases where I sort of had a little box at the end about the future of the character, that was because I knew from the sagas what would happen to this and that character.
I thought that was very interesting because you kind of like guide a little bit the reader very gently without spoiling much, because some of the things are good, some are not so good, but at least you give because I understand some people will not be able maybe to go and read the complete sagas of Icelanders by themselves. So it's very easy reading. It flows very well. And I like the fact that you didn't use notes at the bottom. It's in the text. So they're little like I would say squares where the little text is embedded. And I thought that was very nice, because if it's like notes at the end of the page, it's kind of like, oh, this is very academic, I don't know, it takes you out of the whole story. And I thought it was very, very good, very well done. Also, you have a quite extensive bibliography at the end, and you include pictures of artifacts to provide a visual idea of what you're talking about, from swords to shell, other artifacts to drink, or brushes, or the runes are there too, engraved in the stone. So how difficult was it to decide which images were you going to use?
So in terms of images, illustrations, I gave suggestions
Okay.
to the press, and they found them. I said we need to have a shield, we need to have a sword, we need to have a Viking ship, stuff like that. As for the boxes, I call them sidebars, and that is sort of to explain terminology and to go a little deeper into the context of a chapter, to explain without disrupting the flow of the narrative. I would sort of regard them as excursions,
Yes.
a little bit, so that the reader who doesn't bother with the boxes can simply just, or the sidebars, can simply just skip them and read on.
And actually, the way it's structured, as I said, it's very easy to read. So that's why I thought it was a very good idea. And I thought, I don't know if it was you that suggested that, or is the format of this kind of books that all of them have the same kind of format?
I don't know really. I have not read the others in the series. I know there's one 24 hours in ancient Rome, 24 hours in ancient China, ancient Egypt, ancient Athens. I have not. I would assume that they have the same format.
Also, some of the very interesting things is about the culture that you gather from the book has to do with some of the traditions that these people have. Some of them are being misrepresented, I think, through some works because they want to always portray the more violent, I think. Some are violent, nevertheless, like what happened with the children that were not wanted for whatever reason. Or I found one that was interesting is there is this chapter about this woman who wants to basically she wants to get rid of her husband, and she does in a way. And there is, I would like you to explain it. There's this law about killing someone. I mean, I don't know if it's a law or it's just a tradition, or I don't know exactly what it is, but it says that you can't really, I mean, if you kill someone when it's sleeping, it's really bad. I mean, I would like for you to explain it because I'm not going to explain it well.
Okay. Yeah. So I actually do believe it is a law. If you kill someone who is asleep, then it is murder.
Okay.
Yeah. In order for it not to be murder, you have to wake up the person before you kill him.
Okay. And so I was thinking, but who is there to testify that you woke up? I mean, it's just, I mean,
yeah.
it's
Yeah, I
something.
know, and there are instances
Yeah.
in the sagas of a person hardly being given a chance to defend himself because he's just been woken up,
Of course.
shaken away.
Yeah. So also one of interesting things that you talk about is the part of the divorcing part. It was quite elaborate. This woman who goes to her father to get divorced because of the she talks with. I just couldn't figure it out. Because in our society, at least in Spain, to talk to your father, to your own father, about the sexual performance of your husband would be, I mean, really hard. And I see her and the father discussing this, and you talk about the laws and also the rights, or I would say the lack of rights that the woman had. So I would like you to explain a little bit more about this, about what kind of rights would not have women at this time in this society.
I would say that women had very, very few rights.
Okay.
They always had to work through men, their husband, their father, or their brothers. I mean, women could not vote. They did not. They could not serve as lawyers, or they were basically homemakers.
Yeah.
Though there, of course, they had huge responsibilities. They took care of everything inside the house.
But also, is it true that they couldn't, I mean, or it wasn't well received? They ride alone? They had to ride with someone?
No, a woman could ride on her own. But I think the reason why it is mentioned, sorry, it's my phone ring. I think the reason why it is mentioned that she rode with someone because it was a very long trip
Ah, okay. And was it
in this particular instance.
and it was because was it dangerous for a woman to take such a long trip, or was because it was unusual for a woman to take an
I think just because it was plainly unusual for a woman to ride such a long distance by herself. I don't think it would have been dangerous.
And also, I was thinking about this portray of some Viking women that we've seen in recent TV shows, for example, in Vikings, for example, I'm thinking, where certain women become like the ladies and they have power because their husbands are dead or went to raids and things like that. And I would like to know, from the perspective of your book, it seems to me that was not so much the case. I don't know whether that is something that, the makers of these TV shows have just come up with just to include more women in their stories, like these women that are given certain kind of power when their husbands are left for raids, and kind of like they're the ones who give the past judgments. I don't know whether was that the case when there was.
It is absolutely true that women had to be in charge when their husbands went away on raids. Surely there were men to help out, but no, the woman of the house had to be in charge
And
of
also,
everything on the farm.
and also the idea that we didn't know so much, and that we kind of like discovered that throughout all the ancient times, there were slaves, and they were slaves in the Viking world. They were slaves, but not only people from the raids, but also I'm not sure what is the source of the slaves. It was always from raids, or it was from other instances.
No, I mean they were brought to Scandinavia through raids. So Ireland was a great trading center for slaves. A lot of slaves came from Ireland, were Irish. But so yeah, those slaves were brought back to Scandinavia from the raids. But of course, then there were also slaves born of slaves, right?
Okay. And how would the person gain freedom? Was it because the master will give them the freedom, or could they buy their freedom? How that worked?
It was typically the master who gave them freedom. I mean, there are very, very few instances of that in the sagas. So I'm basing what I'm saying on very, very few sources or instances. The ones that I know of seem to be that it was the master who gave the slave his or her freedom.
And what happened if the one master had a child with the slave? The child would have any kind of right? Would it be a slave himself or herself?
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. I mean, there might have been some issues with inheritance,
Okay.
but such a child would not automatically become a slave.
Ah, okay. So it'd be
Yeah,
at the discretion of the father.
absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
To be recognized or to be.
Yes.
And
Yes.
also, one of the things that I also was interesting because I've seen it in other cultures is how kids were given to be educated by others. Normally, I think male. Well, at least the one that you mentioned was male. And what I was interested in, I would like you to explain to the people who are watching and listening is, if I understood correctly, it had to be someone of inferior kind of like level, the person who would take care of that. No,
No, not
not
necessarily.
necessarily.
Not necessarily. No. Fostering someone else's child
Yeah.
was very, very, very common.
Okay.
And it served a lot of purposes, to cement friendships, to cement political allegiances. Uh, it was considered a good thing to do.
And were certain laws that kind of like articulate this kind of relationship, like there was a certain way you had to treat a foster child? No, or it was
No,
at
no,
the
no,
discretion.
not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
The instances that I know of from the sagas show, or tell me at least, that you would treat your foster child like you would treat your biological child.
Child, exactly.
Yeah.
I remember one, I don't remember the character's name, but he was a foster child for King Athelstan.
Yeah.
And so, and when he came back to Iceland, I think it was, and they asked him to, was it eating? I think eating horse meat or something. And he was
Oh,
like
yeah.
horrified. I'm like, oh, no, I'm a Christian. And people got pissed at him because he didn't
Yeah.
finally, he eat all the, you mentioned he eat all the vegetables except the horse meat. And even though it smelled delicious. So I thought, this is interesting. Like the way that
Yeah.
he was taken away and then educated in such a way that when he came back, he was like, it's not,
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
fitting in.
No, he was educated or brought up
Yes.
Christian, and then went back. He had to hang out with pagans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what is it the most fascinating thing that you've learned from those times that you didn't know at all? And when you discovered it, you thought, wow, this is something that it blew my mind.
I can't answer that question. I really don't know.
No? Yeah. So many things that are so different,
There are
right?
many. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think for me was the fact that I discovered that it was a society much more sophisticated I thought it was in terms of wisdom and arts. So I think that's kind of like blew my mind away. I wasn't expecting, I don't know what I was expecting. I think,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, as a Scandinavian, I'm originally from Denmark. So I, of course, grew up knowing and learning about the Vikings. So I don't think I was ever really drawn into this popular culture of the Vikings as very, very savage people. I mean, it didn't come as a surprise to me that they were very sophisticated artists, phenomenal sailors,
traders also, they were
traders.
quite
Yep,
quite
yep,
good.
yep,
And
yep,
also quite savvy in politics because they
absolutely.
were able to do all those like
Yep.
those things to secure power or to secure other people's support. And so I guess what I wanted to ask is that maybe the popular idea about the Vikings in general is not exactly outside of the Scandinavian countries that are inside the Scandinavian countries, right? Because I think we had a different vision.
I think the vision of the Vikings is changing. I think people are coming to realize more and more and more that the people you see in Viking movies from years ago, it's not a correct interpretation.
And what was the biggest challenge and the easiest part in writing this book?
The biggest challenge was coming up with 24 topics and sort of it was like a jigsaw puzzle. Okay, when should I place this chapter? What hour of the day? So I changed back and forth and fiddled around a lot. And towards the end, I sort of felt I was beginning to run out of ideas. I know I would get to chapter 20 and I would say, oh, four more to go.
And what was the easiest part?
Yeah, no, it was much easier in the beginning than towards the end.
Ah, okay. And also, I would like to know, this book it's coming up in Spanish. Do you know if it's been translated into other languages?
Yes, it was. It has been translated into, let me see, Polish, um, Japanese,
Wow.
Dutch,
Uh-huh.
French, and now into Spanish.
Wow. That's quite impressive. It's very, very interesting. And I think it's one of those books that can stay for a long time because it's a subject that it always attracts attention. So I am sure it's going to be great. And I hope it has a great success in Spanish. And I wanted to know if you use beta readers for your projects, like you use people that read your manuscripts to give you feedback before you turn it to the editor.
I had a friend who is a journalist read it over before I submitted my final version. It's always good to have an outside reader.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I would like to know if you can tell us if you are working on another project of a book, even though if it's not speculative fiction or novelization of history, you can share with us what it is.
Sure. The press, Omara Press, came back to me about just over a year ago and asked me to write another book for them. This one is a survival guide in which I have to imagine a person in the Viking Age arriving there
Ah,
and having to survive for a month. So
oh,
it has
wow.
been it has to be 1 month,
Oh,
and it's and I have a draft of the book. I know it's now being edited by the press, and I will be hearing from them sometime next month. This one was quite challenging,
okay.
and it's certainly more fiction than the 24 hours one. And also, what I found challenging was that I had to write in the second person, which is something I have never done before.
It's challenging, really, definitely.
Yeah.
And
And
what?
I think, I begged, I said, can I write in the first person? Can I write in the third person? But no, it had to be in the second person because they wanted the reader to sort of identify with this character who finds himself in Scandinavia in the Middle Ages.
Is this going to be also part of a series of other?
Yeah,
Yeah.
from what I understand, it is the first in the series.
Ah, so
So, well, I mean, it was also a bit of a problem because the press sort of made changes along the way because they wanted this first book to kind of serve as a model for
wow.
others.
Yeah, great. This is a great accomplishment. I'm so excited. I hope
It's fun. It's fun.
I hope it comes in Spanish and I can have you over again to talk about it. It would be so exciting because now, we know much more of what you do and what you write. And just to kind of wrap up things, I would like to know if you could invite anybody to visit us in Librisimo, another author, who would it be? But the only thing, it has to be someone alive.
Oh, so on which topic?
Any topic. You can pick
Any
anybody.
topic.
Maybe somebody that you love because you like the way they write novels or they write academic, texts. Whoever you.
Well, I mean, in the evening when I'm too tired to work or write, I read New York Times bestsellers.
Ah,
And I just read a book, which absolutely phenomenal. It's called A Thousand Splendid Suns.
yeah.
I cannot right now remember the author's name.
Okay.
But I mean, it is so good.
So you say A Thousand Splendid Suns, right?
A Thousand Splendid Suns.
Let me check. We are checking 1,000 as we talk. So 1,000 splendid suns. Yeah, okay. So it's a historical fiction novel, and it is written by Khaled Hosseini.
Yes, that's it.
So, and this is what historical fiction novel following the lives of two Afghan women who are forced into marriage with the same abusive man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So, because I was gonna ask you to recommend one book, so I guess this is the book you want to recommend, right?
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
if we could have the author talking about it, that would be fantastic. So I'm gonna write it down.
I don't know if it has been translated into
Okay.
Spanish.
Well,
I assume it was originally written in English. I'm pretty sure it was. Yeah.
but as you know, everybody who's watching or listening, we are building this virtual library with all the suggestions from our guests, and this will be part of the list that we will release this summer for anybody to enjoy it. And now I wanted to thank you so much for having the time to answer a few questions about this extraordinary book that I can't recommend enough. 24 horas en la vida de un vikingo, 24 hours in the Viking world. As I said before, translated by Amaya Bozal Chamorro. It's published by Espasa in Spain, and it's written by our guest, Kirsten Wolf. Thank you so much, and I hope you visit us again with one of your projects. This is your house.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah. Bye-bye. Bye.